There are sayings that do not feel like words, but like hidden signs, like lines in an ancient manuscript that only become visible when seen in the right light. Saying 22 belongs to those hidden lines. When you make the two one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the above like the below, and when you make the male and the female into a single one, so that the male will not be male, nor the female be female, then you will enter the kingdom. A riddle made of opposites, inside and outside, above and below, male and female. Yet behind it all stands one question. Why do we live divided when the heart keeps calling for oneness? Sometimes you can feel it clearly, that pull inside, as if you were two people at once, the one you show to the world, and the one who quietly breathes beneath the surface. Between them lies a crack, an invisible border that keeps us far from God. In this video on saying 22 of the Gospel of Thomas, we trace an inner alchemy of the heart, where separation is slowly clarified into a unity open to God. It almost always begins in darkness, not outside, but there, where no one else is looking, deep within. Sometimes it feels as if the heart were split into two chambers, one bright enough to offer the world a smile, the other so dark that you hardly dare to descend into it yourself. This is the first phase known to the old alchemists, nigredo, the blackening, in which a substance breaks down before it can be transformed. This blackening also takes place within us. There is a moment when you realize, I am no longer one with myself. The day speaks one language, the night speaks another, and between them, the soul hangs like a torn cloth caught in the wind. Heraclitus once said that life is the stretching of a bow, a pull in two directions that brings only pain when no one understands its meaning. And perhaps this is precisely our pain, not the resistance of life itself, but that we can no longer hold the two ends together. In this first fracture, the path can begin. For many begin to seek God when something within them no longer feels whole. We live in two worlds at once. One is visible, the words we speak, the role we perform, the face we show to the world. The other is hidden, quiet, unarranged, a landscape of thoughts no one else can hear. And sometimes these two worlds drift apart, like two mirrors that no longer reflect the same form. The outer self shines. The inner self fractures. The outer self functions. The inner self whispers for help. The outer self laughs. The inner self falls silent. A person grows weary when they are forced to live two lives. One figure in the light, one in the shadow. A body that speaks, and a heart that is never allowed to speak at all. Socrates once said that a life left unexamined remains empty. Perhaps this is what he was pointing to. A life in which inside and outside no longer speak the same language. In these tensions, the heart loses its strength. For no soul can endure it for long, when the face it wears is no longer the face it truly means. A person does not fall apart because of the world, but because what is inside no longer speaks to what is outside. This is the second pain. The moment when you begin to sense, if I continue like this, I will lose myself. There is another division, finer, deeper, almost invisible, and yet it shapes our lives. It is a separation of images, of roles, of expectations we did not choose, but carry like a second garment. Be strong, be gentle, be confident, be pleasing, be unshakable, be understanding. The world divides. The heart tries to breathe within these molds and stumbles. But here Jesus is not speaking of man and woman as bodies, but as poles, as forces, as inner movements. The sun pressing outward, the moon shining inward. Both belong within us, not separated, not against each other, not as strangers, but as two sides of the same human being. The human heart takes on all forms, yet its true form belongs to God alone. We become one only when we stop binding ourselves to images that were never made for us. For whoever wants to be only strong loses compassion, and whoever wants to be only gentle loses dignity. The soul suffocates when it is allowed to live only one side. This saying does not lead us into a dissolution of identity, but into a healing of the poles. Not male against female, but one light shining through two windows. When these two sides no longer fight, but recognize one another, then inner reunification begins. This is the end of separation and the quiet beginning of a transformation. There comes a moment when a person stops swinging back and forth between their inner worlds. A moment when the heart begins to realize that it does not need two voices, but only one, the true one. The ancient sages called this state inner justice, not judgment, not punishment, but order. A balance that does not come from outside, but arises within the heart, when inside and outside are no longer enemies. The image for this is ancient, a still lake. When the wind falls silent, it reflects above and below so perfectly that the sky can be seen in the water. In the same way, the heart becomes a mirror when it has grown still. The German mystic Meister Eckhart said that a person can truly receive God only when they have become free of all things. Not as ascetic withdrawal, but as clarity. When the heart no longer pulls in two directions, but only in one, toward God. In this balance, transformation begins. Not because a person becomes perfect, but because they stop hiding from themselves. The inside speaks again to the outside, and the outside no longer contradicts what lives within. This is the first peace. Not a great peace, not ecstasy, not a light from the sky, just a barely audible thought that what was divided can come together again. When the heart begins to hear its two voices, a space opens in between, a threshold of light, where something new becomes possible. The old alchemists called this step solve et coagula, the dissolving and the reforming. First, the old begins to dissolve. The masks, the expectations, the roles, the inner contradictions that have worn us down. Everything that does not truly belong to us starts to loosen, like ink dispersing in water. This is the solve. But the goal is not disintegration. It is clarification. For after the dissolving, what is true gathers again, not into a new mask, but into a new inner coherence. This is the coagula, the reforming, the coming together of above and below, inside and outside, strength and vulnerability. An old Hermetic saying suggests that what is above is reflected in the human being when the heart has become clear. This saying is often misunderstood. It does not mean that the human being becomes divine, but that within the human being, a mirror is formed that can recognize God. This is how transformation happens. Not through force, not through willpower, but through clarification. When the heart is no longer made of two voices, but of one, the true one, then unity begins. And this unity is not self-glorification, but openness. For no one recognizes God while they remain fractured within themselves. The unity spoken of in saying 22 is the restoration of the inner vessel, so that the heart can carry what comes from God. This is the quiet alchemy of the human being. In the old art of alchemy, there is a final step. Rubedo, the reddening, the turning into gold. An image of something long broken coming back together in the light. This moment also unfolds within the heart. Not loudly, not brilliantly, not like a miracle that shakes the world, but quietly, almost imperceptibly, a gentle, warming glow, like the first breath of morning light after a long night. When the opposites have ceased to fight, when the inner no longer stands against the outer, when strength and gentleness are no longer enemies, then a space opens in which God can be recognized again. Augustine once wrote that the heart must first be torn apart before it can long for true rest. Perhaps it is precisely this rest that begins here. For the becoming one, spoken of in saying 22, does not mean that the human being becomes divine, but that they are freed from what separates them from God. Unity is not power. It is not enlightenment, not triumph, not a special ability. It is clarity. It is sincerity. It is the restoration of the inner vessel. And when this vessel has become whole again, it can carry what only God can give: peace, light, nearness, not as a vision, not as ecstasy, but as a quiet certainty. I'm once again on the path toward my origin. In this becoming gold, the circle closes, not because the human being is complete, but because they have understood where they belong. It is the return to the One. At the end of this path, there is no great moment and no dramatic light. It is more like a door that opens softly, so softly that you only notice it when your own heart has grown still. Saying 22 does not show us a world of hidden secrets, but the secrets of our own world. It shows that the fracture within us is not the end, but the beginning. That opposites are not enemies, but steps. That unity does not mean self-discovery, but a return home to God. For a person does not come to God through strength or knowledge or outward forms, but through a heart that has become one again. One in its intention, one in its truth, one in its search. Perhaps this is the kingdom of which Jesus speaks. Not a place, but a state. A point of light within that becomes visible when separation comes to an end. And so the journey always begins in the same place. Not in the heavens, not in books, not in words, but deep within the heart, where God is already waiting. A quiet door, a step, a new beginning.